So happy Ekadashi, everyone. Here we are again to celebrate and to absorb ourselves, to take advantage of these special sacred days to get closer to Srila Prabhupada by hearing about his glorious qualities, how he demonstrated the qualities of a pure devotee, the 26 qualities. And we're getting close to the end of the 26. I think we're, so Siddhanta Prabhu has joined here. We're together today again. And we're on number 25. Is that right?
Yes, 25, one more after today. 25, we will discuss the quality of a Vaishnava, where it's stated that he is expert.
Expert.
Yeah, expert. Now, this one was tough to, I mean, Prabhupada is expert in so many things. So his expertise is practically in every anecdote, every oral history that I recorded over the last 32 years here. So the ones I've chosen today, I think, are exemplary to that quality. And Prabhupada was expert in so many ways. He was expert in handling philosophical objections. He was an expert negotiator. He was an expert cook. He was expert at marketing, and he was expert as an educator. He was expert preacher, obviously. And to top things off, he was expert in dealing with devotee relationships and disputes with devotees, which is a talent. Not everyone has that ability to, be a mediator and a negotiator amongst Vaishnavas who might have a dispute between each other. But today it's going to be a long one, 35 minutes, a little over 30 minutes. So like we did a couple of weeks ago, we listened to all of them together. Okay. And so I'd like you and everyone else who's watching to take notes. And again, at the end, because we're going to listen to 11 stories today. 11. And if you could pick out your 3 favorite, if it's possible, or you might say all of them are your favorites, but share in the comment section your opinion and what resonates with you and what inspires you that you would, like to share with your friends and family. So to get things going, we're going to be listening to Yadabara Prabhu, Bhakti Sundar Goswami, Krishna Bhamani Dasi, Ramai Swami, Pita Sandamani Dasi, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Hari Kesh, Ananga Manjari, and Bhanabhata and his brother, Jagat Purush Prabhu. Okay. So it's quite a lineup, and we hope you enjoy it. We'll talk about all of them on the other side. So get your pen and paper ready.
Sit back and let's enjoy.
Yeah, take notes.
Absorb ourselves fully into Srila Prabhupada's expert quality.
Jai.
So in Prabhupada's room at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, 1973, and he was being interviewed by a reporter, a lady reporter. It was summertime, and she had a miniskirt on. So her first question to Prabhupada is, why do you have bald heads? And Prabhupada immediately replied, why do you have bare legs? Better to have a cool head to understand this Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada immediately had an answer, and just everybody laughed. Everybody just cracked up.
But then the lady, metaphysical leader, she raised her hand and said, oh, for me, this chanting of repeatedly the mantra Hare Krishna is some kind of self-hypnosis. Like some tribes in Africa, they repeat words and things and they enter in a state of hypnotic state. So the mantra, repeating the mantra seems to mean something like that. Prabhupada said, but that's your opinion, but you're not an authority. Our authority is Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Satatam kirtayanto mam. My devotees always sing my glories. And she argued, well, for us Westerners, The authority is the philosopher Saint Germain. He's a French philosopher, not much known. And according to him, she said, we should chant the name of God, I am. Prabhupada said, I am is not a name. Maybe Jehovah, Allah are names, but I am is not a name. She said, well, in the Bible, when God was asked, who are you? He said, I am who I am. Prabhupada, I'm not familiar with that part of the Bible. Any of you have read that? One disciple said, yes, Prabhupada. When Moses was asked by God to free his people from slavery in Egypt, he asked God, and if they ask me who I am, who sent me, what should I say? And God's response was, tell them I am who I am. Prabhupada said, that's fine. God can say I am. You also can say I am. But both I am are not on the same level. When God say I am the supreme. And when you say I am the part of the supreme. So there's a difference. No? If the owner of a business say I am and his workers say I am, they are not on the same level. One is the boss, the other is an employee. She said, well, in essence, we are all the same, you know. Prabhupada said, essence means a spirit. Yes, God is a spirit, and we also are a spirit, but He's the supreme spirit, and we are the tiny spirit. God said, let there be creation, and immediately creation was there. But if you're hungry and you say, let there be chapatis, will be no chapatis. You have to sweat to get the chapatis. So there is a difference between you and God. And we all laughed, you know, Papa's remark. And then she argued, well, we are evolving. One day we will become gods. Prabhupada said there is no such evolution. The part is always the part, and the all is always the all. The part can never become the all. And she became a little disappointed. She said, oh, we are never become one with the all. Prabhupada said, you already are in the all. But you are not the all. It's like a part of a machine, a small part. You can say it is one with the machine, but it's not the whole machine, it's part of it. In the same way, although we are in the all, we are not the all ourselves. We are part of it. Do you accept that? Finally, the lady said, yes, I agree, Master. We are part of the all. Prabhupada, very nice. Bring the prasad. He will not stop until she will agree to the philosophy that we are one and different at the same time, that Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. We are a spirit, the same as God, but we are small and He's the great. Prabhupada told us in one lecture in Venezuela, Krishna conscious philosophy is very simple. God is great and we are small. And the duty of the small is to serve the great. That's simple.
In Detroit, we were very fortunate that we were able to edit Srila Prabhupada's books. And I wrote Srila Prabhupada when I became pregnant with my son. And he wrote me such a kind letter back. And he said, I told him how I was going on Sankirtan full time. And he wrote me back. And he said, in the advanced stages of pregnancy, you should not travel by train or plane, and you should refrain from going on Sankirtan. And we would go for 8 hours a day in Detroit. And so I began editing Krishna book and also preparing prasadam for the devotees when they would return. And at that time also, I was working on children's version of Sri Upanishad. And I sent Srila Prabhupada the first chapter. And he wrote me back and he said, for children, it must be very easily understood. He said, for example, how can they understand this term Brahmajyoti, which I had included? He said, you must say, instead of Brahmajyoti, you must say, just as there is sun, there is shine coming from the sun, so there is another shine coming from Krishna's body. that is Brahmajyoti. So he said, you know, do this work very nicely.
I was on Sankirtan actually, in plainclothes, doing plainclothes Sankirtan. I came back and there was this kind of big crowd had assembled, and we used to do Sankirtan. We had a centre downtown. We would come back for lunch and things like that. And a couple of doors up from our place, I noticed there was smoke coming out of this building, flames were coming out, and there were some women, you know, screaming out, "Help, help!" And one of them, I think, was on the ledge or something like that. Apparently the fire had come up the stairwell and blocked their exit. And they were up on a third floor. So myself and I think Yasso, another devotee, we were both out and saying, we came back, we were looking up, and these girls, they were just young girls actually, they were just like 19 or 20, they were screaming, "Help, help us." The fire brigade hadn't arrived. We must have just, we came back just at that time when it was all happening. And the fire brigade hadn't arrived yet. So they were screaming, "It's coming up the stair, it's coming closer," like that. So I was looking at Yasso, he's looking at me, and we ran back to the shop, and I said, and in the shop, all the preparations were going on for the Rath Yatra parade. There was all sorts of things all over the floor, and the Manajis were working on the canopy for the Rath cart, putting on the finishing touches, and I think Yasso said, "Quick, give us that canopy." Right, and we got this huge canopy, you know, the Rath Yatra cart canopy that covers the top part of the cart. So we got it, and we took it out in the street, and we spread it out. And we got a bunch of karmis. I guess there was like half a dozen devotees came out, and a whole bunch of karmis were there, and we spread it out all over real tight, and it went out round. Like sometimes you see these firemen, they get these kind of round tarpaulin things, and people jump on them. So we were thinking like that they could jump onto this thing. So we held it out and we stretched it right out, and then we all yelled, "Jump, jump!" So the girls, I didn't want to jump, you know. Obviously, it was a long way from up there to down there onto this thing. They didn't know what to make of it. "Jump, jump, jump!" And I remember one girl, no, I don't want to jump. So I think that girl didn't jump. She went out the back and tried to get across to another building or something like that. But one girl did jump, to my amazement, because I actually thought they wouldn't jump. But anyway, so she did jump. She came flying down, boom. And it was okay. The canopy, Lord Jagannath's canopy, had saved her. The canopy had held. I mean, she didn't drop through the canopy and splatter on the ground or anything. So, you know, all the devotees, "Haribo!" and all the karmis, you know, they, "Hey!" like this, you know. And then, now I think there was one or two, a couple jumped. And then somehow the press had arrived already by that stage. They were taking photos. The fire brigade arrived just after that, and I think anyone else who was left in the building, they got out. But later that night, it was reported to Prabhupada. And the next day, it kind of that story made the front page of practically all the papers here in Melbourne, and actually even in other cities, and it got into the front page of one national paper. And it said, "Hare Krishna's saved women from blazing inferno," words to that effect. So Prabhupada was very happy. He was very happy when he actually told the devotees to get all the clips and save the clips. He wanted a copy of those clips, and he wanted to take them with him. And he said, "This is very good. This is very good for our reputation." So it was an interesting story that I remember.
I was listening to the class, and it was right in the middle of the class, and Prabhupada was speaking a sentence, and I realized by the way he was forming the sentence that he was going to say something incorrectly, grammatically incorrect. And my mind said, just see, you know, he's going to say something grammatically incorrect, and he's a perfect master. And then Prabhupada stopped. He didn't say the sentence. He looked right down at me, even though there's 300 people in a room. Looked right down at me. He looked back up. He said the whole sentence perfectly, and then he looked down at me and went like this. And I just melted into the floor, and I thought, that couldn't have just happened like I thought it happened. I can't believe, you know, I hope he really didn't know what I thought, what I was thinking. And I just prayed that Prabhupada really didn't know what I was thinking. You know, but it was amazing, you know. Then I thought, wow, Prabhupada is the perfect master. He really knows.
So when Prabhupada came, there was, they called a press conference. As we know, when Prabhupada would come to places, they would try to get the media to come and things. And so the press was there, and he invited all the devotees. There wasn't that many of us, so it was really intimate. So Prabhupada had just flown in from somewhere, I'm not sure where, and he was telling me that, or telling us that the pilot came on the plane, and he actually sat next to Prabhupada and said, you know, Your Grace, you know, do you mind if I ask you some questions? And so Prabhupada, you know, always the gracious host and always anxious to share Krishna consciousness. And the man was very thoughtful because he had a great question, and Prabhupada was relating this to us and also in the press conference. The man said, if God is good and all-loving and great, Prabhupada is, you know, agreeing, he said, then why did God create evil? And Prabhupada was telling us. So I told them that the sun is shining, very bright, it's beautiful, but if you turn your back on the sun, you create a shadow. It's not God, it's not the sun's fault. You created the shadow by turning your back. So similarly, when people turn their back on God, then evil is there. And then Prabhupada looked very innocently at us and he said, was that all right? Did I give a good answer? You know, and the devotees were just like clapping, and they said, oh, that was great, Prabhupada. And you could just see the very innocent, you know, boy-like enthusiasm and really deep humility that he was really saying, you know, was that all right? Did I give a good answer? And it was so cute and so endearing to me that he would really bring us in and share that with us. So that was really special.
In London, of course, that was another interesting negotiation. Prabhupada told us, I got to London in September of 1969, and by that time Prabhupada was getting ready to get the place in Bury Place, 7 Bury Place. And what is a temple without deities? So Prabhupada gave us the instruction that you have to install Radha Krishna deities. But he didn't order the deities, and we didn't have any deities. He just said, such and such, December so-and-so was the date of the opening, and you have to have Radha Krishna deities. So we, you know, started to go. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. How are you supposed to find Radha and Krishna in London? We just started to ask anyone and everyone. It was like a, you know, a national alarm. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Radha and Krishna, please phone such and such number. And that was the number of Mukunda's wife, Janaki. So, well, it went, you know, week after week went by, and Prabhupada would call us and say, where are the deities? And we said, you know, we don't know where Radha and Krishna are. Prabhupada said, you have to have deities. So finally, miraculously, when we were practically giving up, we get this phone call. Janaki gets a phone call. Someone says, we have Radha Krishna deities. So immediately she informed Mukunda, and Mukunda and I went down to this man's house. And the man took us into his study, and he said, I have some Radha Krishna marble deities. Would you like to look at them? So, you know, would we like to look at them? You know, we were ready to jump out of our skins practically. Sure, we wanted to look at them. And he took off the cloth, and, you know, we just offered our obeisances, because that was Radha Londoneshvara. So we said, they're beautiful, they're so beautiful. I mean, they were beautiful. And he said, well, I'm considering that I may be willing to give them to your temple. So we said, well, we have to, you know, can we bring our spiritual master to see them? And he said, yes, you can do so. So we raced out, and we went to a phone booth. I remember we called immediately to Prabhupada's apartment. Prabhupada was living near Regent's Park, a very nice apartment. And we called up, and he was resting, so we decided just to go over there. We went in there, we told him, Prabhupada, we found Radha and Krishna. So Prabhupada immediately said, take me, I want to see them. So we had a van. We used to have a van. And it was Prabhupada and Mukunda, Shamsundar, and myself, maybe Gurudas, came in the van and we went in. And by that time was the early evening. Prabhupada came in and he started to talk with this Indian gentleman, very friendly way. The man said that these deities were ordered already for society, but somehow or other things had not worked out. There was some difficulty and they could not use the deity. So Prabhupada would just ignore the point, and he just kept asking the man, where are you from? How are you? How's your wife? He made the man bring his wife in, bring the children in. Prabhupada, gave his blessings to everyone, just talking. And finally the man, said, Swamiji, don't you want to see the deities? And Prabhupada said, oh, yes, we can see the deities. It was just so nonchalant, as if he was not even interested. So, he said, please, I want to show them to you, So he took the man took Prabhupada over, and he showed him the deities. And Prabhupada looked and said, And he just turned around and walked and sat back in his sofa. So the man said, wow, so Swamiji, what do you think? Can you use the deity? Prabhupada said, they looked like they may be used. He said, well, I'm thinking I can give them to you. Prabhupada said, yes, we could accept them. And he said, he asked me, go and see how heavy the deity is. So I went over, and Shamsundar went over, and I tilted Radharani, and I said, not very heavy. Well, she was heavy, but I said, not very heavy. Shamsundar had Krishna. Prabhupada said, all right, we'll take them now. He said, pick them up, and then the man said, wait, Swamiji, wait a moment. I think maybe he had an idea of recovering some of the cost. I don't know what he had an idea. He said, wait. And he said, no, there's no problem. It's not heavy. These are American boys. They're very strong. And we carried the deities out, and the man was just protesting, Swamiji, went 1 minute. And we walked right out to the van and brought Radha Krishna, put them in, and Prabhupada sat down in the seat next to the driver's seat. And he said, I'll take care of the deities. We'll be in touch with you. And the man just, the whole family was out there, and they were just like this. And Prabhupada said, okay, let's drive. So we drove off, and when we got around the corner, Prabhupada said, stop the car. And then we stopped the van, and Prabhupada said, take the cloth off the deities. We took the deities, and then Prabhupada just started to offer prayers. There were tears in his eyes, and he started to sing the prayers from Brahma Samhita. And he said, Krishna has now appeared in London.
I had to cook in some really horrible situations. I mean, places where there was no kitchen, or places where there was just a shelf and you had a hot plate, electric hot plate, and that was the kitchen, with a bowl of water. Mauritius was one of those places where, and the flour that was given to me was, you could have just made sawdust and had the same effect with this flour. It was so bad. In Mauritius, the food at that time was so awful. And the flour they gave me to make chapatis was so terrible. But this had been going on all through Africa. All over Africa, Nairobi, and well, we hadn't gotten down to South Africa yet. So it was a serious problem, all of these places. It was also a problem in India before. Some of the kitchens were terrible, and we weren't staying in temples all the time. So I had to make chapatis. Now, I'm not Sruti Kirti. Sruti Kirti is the chapati Acharya. Anything chapati he makes, it's perfect. Me, I struggled to make chapatis. Sometimes I could make them not bad. If it was a good flour, if it was a gas stove, and if it was, all the conditions were what they usually are in any temple in the world, I can make a chapati. Not as good as him, but I still could make a chapati. It was acceptable. Now we're in these conditions, which are in battlefield conditions, basically speaking. So Mauritius, the worst possible thing, because we're in some outpost house in the middle of nowhere, and it's just a hot plate. Just one hot plate. That's not even so hot. Flour, that's so bad. You can't do anything with it. And I'm struggling just to make a dough. I'm struggling to make this chapati. And it came out to be like I'm giving Prabhupada pieces of cardboard. Literally. Didn't blow up nothing. It was just cardboard. And so this continued as we went through these horrible places. I couldn't get good flour. I couldn't get a stove. I couldn't get anything. So he was getting very upset because the Sri Kirti said just this afternoon, he said, you know, for Prabhupada, food meant a good chapati. If you could do a good chapati, everything else was forgiven. If you couldn't do a good... Anyway, so then I said, Prabhupada, nobody can make a chapati on these stoves. I was talking about the ones all over. I said, nobody. I don't care who they are. I didn't say Sri Kirti because maybe he could. I don't know. I don't care who they are. Nobody can make chapati on these stoves. He said, nobody? He's sitting at his table. Nobody? I said, nobody. He said, nobody? Then he pushes his hands up, gets up off the table, walks into the kitchen. And I'm like, whoa. Then he says, where's the dough? And I'm sitting behind him. We're both on the floor. I'm behind him. He's sitting there in front of the stove. And he's going like this, looking at me. Then he was very good at rolling his eyes. Perfect. Looks at me. Puts it on the drying thing there that you make chapati with. He's looking at me. Takes it off. Puts it on the stove. It doesn't blow up. I smirked. I'm this far away from him, right? So he heard me smirk. I don't know if I can duplicate it exactly, but it was something like, you know, yeah. So then he turns around and looks at me, gets the dough, does it even faster, chucks it on the plate, throws it on the grill. It blows up. He picks it up with the tongs and throws it at my nose. And it bounces off my nose. And he stands up triumphant and walks out of the kitchen. And I'm sitting there hysterically laughing. It was the greatest thing that ever happened. It was just spectacular. Get a chapati bouncing off your nose.
Hridayananda and I got to be in Prabhupada's room alone, and Prabhupada was sitting there. Maybe Shruti Kirti was in the background. And this was the time when we were going to ask him if we could take sannyas. Because that's how we felt. We felt about it like we were going to take sannyas. You know, it was an adventure that we would sacrifice for Prabhupada. We were married 1 year, and in those days it wasn't really like we were married, because we were mostly living in the Brahmacharya Brahmatrini ashram, managing the Gainesville temple, and we were friends in preaching, and good commitment, good, you know, partnership for preaching, and good friends. And so we thought this would be a great sacrifice for Prabhupada. So we sat there, and Prabhupada knew we were going to come for this reason. He was aware. We had written to him. So he sat there very gravely, and he said, so, what do you want? And Hridayananda very philosophically said, Srila Prabhupada, it's explained in the Vedas that one, you know, studies under the Guru in brahmachari life, and then he gets married and experiences grihastha life, and then he takes sannyas. So I'm asking if I can take sannyas. And Srila Prabhupada said, he waited, he hesitated, and then he looked very grave, and then he said, sometimes it is difficult, like that. And I remember thinking, I was sitting there and I was thinking, difficult, but you know, Prabhupada will carry us through, Krishna will carry what we lack, we want to do this for Prabhupada, you know, and then he said, does your wife agree? And I'm like, Hridayanath said, yes, Prabhupada, she agrees. And then he slapped him on the back with a big smile and says, you have a very good wife because she agrees. And then he came up to me with the most compassionate, melting look in his eyes. And he just came very close to me, and I wasn't expecting this. He came very close and he looked at me, oh my gosh, so lovingly, very deeply lovingly. And he said, what do you want to do? And I was thinking, this is the Jagat Guru. This is the spiritual master of the whole universe. He's asking me what I want. And at this moment, I can have anything I want, because Krishna, whatever he says, Krishna will back him up. All these thoughts went in my head. And I thought, this is the moment of my life when whatever I say will be the most important thing. And this is Jagat Guru. Krishna will back him up. I'll get anything I want in the whole universe. So I kind of hesitated because I was thinking all these things. And I even like stepped back a little because I was like, oh, it's overwhelming. And I stepped back and I was thinking, like hesitating to answer. And I remember it was like a film of millions of desires going through my head. You know, on television when they show the end of someone's life and everything in their life goes through their heads. And it was like, just like I experienced that. Every desire that I could possibly have had, even from lifetimes, even things that weren't familiar, was going through my head like a reel. And all of a sudden I just said, oh, Srila Prabhupada. I was trying to buy time because all this experience was going on. I said, I just want to be Krishna conscious. And it came out, and it came out so vivid that I almost saw the words coming out of my mouth. Like, where did that come? I was astounded at the same time that those were the words that came out, because it wasn't what I had been thinking. It wasn't like a clear desire, yes, I want to be Krishna. So the words came out like that, and Prabhupada stepped back and looked at me, and looked like, I remember, just like as if an artist had created something, and then he was stepping back to see how his creation was. Did it work out? You know, kind of like that thing. And the way he looked at me was just like that, and I thought, he made those words come out. He pulled them out of me, out of his love. Out of that compassionate look, he pulled those words out of my heart from somewhere. And then he went like this and said, you are already Krishna conscious. And when he went like this, it was like, whoom, like, and I remember thinking, this is what he's doing for all of us. Immediately I thought, he's doing this for all of us. He pulls this desire out of us for love of Krishna and determination to try to be Krishna conscious, and then he just whams us with grace and love and mercy. And so this was a very significant part of my life. It kept me going for many, many years. It's for all of us. It's for everyone. His disciples, grand disciples, it's for everyone. We are already Krishna conscious because of just trying to do something for him.
Wow.
While I was in Mayapur attending the festival, I was, at this time I was still temple commander. I was temple commander there for about 4 months, and before and during and a little bit after the festival in 1976. And so we were trying to finish all the rooms for the devotees along the perimeter wall of Mayapur. And there was a huge influx of devotees coming, and I was in anxiety because I was a new temple commander. I didn't speak the language there, and we were behind schedule in getting the rooms ready. And of course, you know, these are Prabhupada's devotees from around the world who are doing so much service. They deserve to come to Mayapur. I know Prabhupada wanted them to have very nice facility, so they felt very taken care of. And so, because as Prabhupada said, that Mayapur is our home. So in that mood, I was trying to get every person who came a little early. Some devotees came a little bit early for the festival. So I was trying to engage them, especially able-bodied devotees, in helping get the rooms ready for the other devotees. So I was in a little bit of a passionate mode. And I remember one specific incident of a devotee who had come, and he was a black body devotee. He was very stout, seemed very strong, and I believe he would take morning prashana, but then he would disappear for the rest of the day, and he'd go into where the banana patch was, and he'd just chant Hare Krishna all day long. And I approached him and asked him if he would help, and he said he's just in Mayapur just to chant Hare Krishna, and that's it. So that rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, and being temple commander and having that responsibility, I was frustrated, and I thought maybe that would set a precedent for other devotees. So I approached Srila Prabhupada at that time. I had pretty much the ability, carte blanche, to enter Srila Prabhupada's room. And even when I did, it was only for, what I considered important things to ask Srila Prabhupada. I didn't want to bother him. But this time I thought it necessary, and so I entered Srila Prabhupada's room, offered my obeisances. And Srila Prabhupada was sitting there chanting japa. And so he was chanting japa, and I came in, offered my obeisance. I said, Srila Prabhupada, I need to ask you something. And he, still fingering his beads, he turned towards me and he said, yes. I said, Srila Prabhupada, we're trying to get the rooms ready on the perimeter wall for all the devotees who are coming, and we're behind schedule. And so I'm trying to get every single devotee who's coming early who can to help us out. And there's one devotee in particular that's really frustrating me because he won't do any service. And he simply goes to the banana patch, and all day long, all he does is chant Hare Krishna. He won't do any service. And so Prabhupada was lightly, softly chanting as I was telling him this. His face a little bit turned away to me. And then when I finished saying he won't do any service, he stopped and he looked at me with a very grave look, and he said, so, you think chanting Hare Krishna is not service? He said, that is the greatest service. And his eyes rolled back, and he moved his head to the side, and I immediately felt like about a half inch big. I felt so humiliated, and I simply offered my obeisance and said, yes, thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Left the room and got what I consider one of the greatest personal instructions from my spiritual master to this day. And, Prabhupada was so expert, and as you hear the memories of so many other devotees, because he's in direct connection with Krishna all the time, it was so unpredictable to know what he was going to say in any given situation. And to another devotee in the same situation, he may give a completely different instruction, but he knew that was exactly what I needed to hear. And it was a very, I feel it's a very important instruction, very, very vivid remembrance of that pastime with Prabhupada.
So on one occasion, we were just returning from the morning walk. We were nearing the temple. Dr. Patel was walking and having animated conversations with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada was saying something critical about one of the well-known, figures of the recent history. And Prabhupada was quite critical. And Dr. Patel, as he had done many times, really objected strongly to Srila Prabhupada's criticism. And he was asking Prabhupada, why do you have to criticize? Let them be. You do your thing, let them do their thing. Just leave them alone. Why do you have to criticize them? They are great souls in their own right. So let them just be. If you don't agree with their philosophy, just let them alone. And then Srila Prabhupada stopped. And Prabhupada said that if I'm in an operating room and I'm conducting a operation with a patient, and someone comes into the room and starts cutting my patient, am I going to just stand there and watch it happen? No. I'm going to say, get out! Prabhupada said loudly, get out, you rascal! So I cannot be silent these rascals and fools have destroyed the culture of India. And therefore I must speak out. And I will speak out. Prabhupada is very, very strong.
Hare Krishna. Oh boy.
It's a good collection.
You've really
right?
given us a challenge to pick a. I was, and it's what. First of all, I wanted to just comment how wonderfully you have selected these to demonstrate variety of expertise, because each one had a different kind of expertise. You know, I was making notes. You know, that you have the expertise in logic and in argument, in expertise in human psychology, and expertise in grammar. You know, that was, but reading minds at the same time. You know, that was, and then the expertise in philosophy, but with humility, because that was another thing I noted in that. Remembrance of Sandamani. But when Tamal Krishna, then I start, when Tamal Krishna's expertise in negotiation.
Correct, right.
That's like you've used the word classic, and I think, you know, that to me, that was really one of the classic memories of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, he spoke
And
it so well.
the next one,
very visual.
yeah, and Hari Kesha's remembrance of Srila Prabhupada's, and there's so many expertise in there. The expertise, the cooking itself,
Right.
In, you know, that expertise, but also how to, you know, the relationship expertise with Hari Kesha was just, and that's another classic. So, and then we went on to the, you know, with the Nangamanjari. I mean, you know, that's an expertise that the expertise of having actual spiritual Shakti that just transforms people. And then we come on to Banabhatta. Now, by the way, I was one of those people that Banabhatta approached who had come early to Mayapur.
Yeah, did you accept?
And I did, and I'm still here. You know, he loaded me up so much that by the time that the rest of the New York devotees had come, I was like, you know, completely engaged in service. And then they asked me to stay. So, and then of course, finally with Jagat Purush and his demonstration of Srila Prabhupada's expertise in dealing with opposing elements, but in a way that that story continues, by the way, as we know, that Dr. Patel initially backed off, but then he came back and he joined Prabhupada again, those walks, and so he knows how to deal with an individual was another great expertise. So, if you want to ask me my three, I guess Tamal's story,
okay, and
Hari Kesha's. I just, you know, I repeat that. That's one of the ones I tell sometimes.
Okay,
and then it gets a little harder, but I think perhaps Ananga Manjari's story, because it just really does speak to all of us. Like she said, you know, that Srila Prabhupada could pull out from us spiritual realization and Krishna consciousness.
Right.
So anyway.
Good selections.
Thank you. Well, your selection made it difficult, but anyway.
All right.
Those are the ones that hit me.
Thank you for
listening. They were all fantastic.
All right. Appreciate all the time that you're allowing to share these stories about Prabhupada.
Yes. I appreciate you for bringing it together. And I appreciate our audience for being with us.
Right. Next time will be the last quality that we'll discuss, quality number 26. He is poetic.
Poetic.
So that'll be...
yeah, that's a very deep quality of Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and please share with others if you've enjoyed.
Please do. Please
and share in the comments your choices.
We want to hear your choices.
Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very, very much, Siddhanta Prabhu. Jai
Hari-
Srila.
Haribol.